Are we all set? Good evening. Welcome to the December 5th Village Board meeting. Following the pledge tonight, we're going to observe a moment of silence in honor of today's day of mourning for the passing of President George H.W. Bush. This meeting is now called to order. We'll begin with the pledge. Trustee Bazemore, Trustee Codman,
Present.
Trustee Levin, Trustee Herrera,
Present.
Mayor Garrity. Present. Okay, so we begin tonight with a public hearing in the matter of proposed local law number 11 of 2018, titled A Local Law Amending Chapter 241, Taxation of the Village of Boston Code. Is there anyone here to address the board on this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak during the public hearing regarding the proposed change to taxation, which is involving SCREE and DREE, which is the senior Corporation Counsel? Would you mind giving us a brief recap of what it is we are having a public hearing on this evening?
Happy to, Mayor. Thank you. This is proposed local law 11 of 2018 and would adopt changes to the village tax code to implement a senior citizen income exemption or rent exemption and the disabled individual rent exemption for those properties which are covered by the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, ETPA, and would be for to seniors, it would be 62 and over, and those who are disabled. The ceiling for the total income, $50,000. At the request of the board, the language was amended to reflect that if the state lowers it, it would be lowered to whatever that new number would be, or if it is raised, it would go up to whatever that number would be for the total. But it would provide a exemption for the rent increase for the individual, and for the property owner, it would provide a tax abatement for that amount of that rent increase. And it's adopted in, I believe, 14 municipalities in Westchester that obviously have ETPA, which you can only have what is known as SCREE and DREE if you have ETPA.
And it's been adopted in these municipalities in a variety of forms with different thresholds.
That is correct. The current state threshold is 50,000. It is scheduled to drop to, I believe it's 24,000 in 2020. But various municipalities go as high as the 50. Some go as low as, I think we talked last time, about $13,000, $14,000. So it varies according to the municipality, and that's the proposal that's before this board, proposed local law 11.
Would you like to come and speak, please? Yes, if you could identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Frank Semino. I own a couple properties in Ossining, and it's my understanding that this ETPA, which my buildings are subject to, there's a lawsuit pending. Whether it passes or not, the question I have is, by acting on what is proposed tonight, what happens if it's not passed, or it's not, or ETPA is overturned or whatever? And I do have a second question.
Please, in the public hearing, we're really just here to listen to you, but if we do have some insights, we'll provide it after. Is your second question contingent upon the first?
It's related.
Oh, well, please.
The second question is, if I don't know the specifics of this senior citizen exemption, but who actually pays for
it? Okay. Perhaps Corporation Counsel can provide a little more insight into what the legal process would be, as well as the structure for the abatement.
With regard specifically to the legal process, notes there are 2 pending lawsuits at the time. ETPA is continuing in full force and effect. minor exceptions at the present time. One is with regard to the landlord's obligation to file their application with the uh, as well as the $10 per unit fee. Everything else is intact. The question, I believe, is what happens if the court ultimately rules that the resolution is null and void and there should be no ETA? If there is no ETA in the village, then there can be no scree and dree in the village, no senior citizen discount, income rent exemption, or disabled person rent exemption. This proposed law can only proceed if there is ETA. Without it, it cannot, because it's only for those particular units. With regard to your second question as to what occurs there, if a tenant is given a rent abatement, that information is then provided to the village treasurer. It's also provided to the property owner, and the property owner would get a full reduction in their taxes. What is the amount?
So if the rent was expected to go up by $25 a month, but somebody has qualified to be as part of the SCREE or DREE program, the $25 will instead be provided to the building owner in the form of a discounted amount, that amount taken off of their tax bill to the village. So the village, the reason why we have to consider a law is because we have to put in place the ability and police the process for us to be able to provide that abatement, and therefore we're reducing by that much the revenue that the village will be getting from the property taxes paid by the property owner.
And in effect, may I respond?
Yes.
In effect, the village tax or the town tax, I don't know which one,
Village.
would get less money.
Correct.
So where does that money get made up in the village budgets?
Well, in the rest of the revenue that we make. I mean, that's just what village taxes are. I mean, that's what the village budget is. That's
So you'd have to,
it's a reduction in revenue from property taxes.
so you'd have to come up with that money or reduce your budget, I guess.
Correct.
Okay, so if you,
You know what? I've kind of been flexible in how we handle the public hearing. Usually, the public hearing, we're just listening to your comments. We've had a little back and forth because this is a program that we really want to figure out, and I'm grateful that you're here. I wish there were more landlords here because we know that they've
So
had a
am
lot of questions. I'm surprised that there aren't, in fact. So I'm happy to have an opportunity to get some information out there. But yes, it's a reduction in revenue. We also don't anticipate that we're talking about huge dollars. We're talking about a few thousand, not tens of thousands that are likely based on other communities that have implemented it, and the number of folks who apply and qualify for the program is a relatively small amount, and it is targeted to folks who have proven a financial need, and the folks who are least likely to be able to increase their income to be able to make up with it for any rent increase. So but as far as the numbers, yeah, it comes from. It's a reduction in revenue for the village, and so yep, we need more revenue. We've got to find it elsewhere.
right, okay. May I respond to his first response to the law?
You have another question about the
I have
lawsuit,
another
please?
question. And that would be to the two pending lawsuits. So aren't you in effect putting the cart before the horse, because we don't know if this law is going to go through or overturned or revoted on?
Well, we've heard your question, and the board will have to decide how we want to proceed based on the information we have from Corporation Counsel. Thank you, Mr. Semino.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board as part of the public hearing? Okay.
Entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Well, there's only three of us, so we have to all agree or not. I'm hesitant to close the public hearing, frankly. In part because there are only three of us here. I don't see any harm in keeping it open for another week. We actually have a public hearing that's already scheduled for next week, which is a little unusual anyway. So I think it might be beneficial to keep it open for another week, especially since we have I mean, I don't think any of the legal questions are going to be decided by next week anyway. As far as the
Certainly
lawsuits.
the lawsuits themselves will certainly not be resolved. Actually, nothing will be resolved by next week, I can tell you that.
I don't see an urgency to close the public hearing. I'm opening this up for discussion.
You know, when we met and talked about this at the work session, there were 4 trustees that were very happy to push forward, and I see no reason to delay debate about this. I mean, certainly discussed it at the work session. You know, yeah, we could wait another week, but
Well, I
think
think it's a non-issue now that Trustee Bazemore walked in. My vote is irrelevant.
talking about the
Would you like to close the public hearing?
for Scree and Dree.
I mean, was there any comments?
There was one from
Well,
Mr.
well,
Cedillo.
there was a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
And it takes 3 votes to close the
Okay.
hearing.
So moved.
Okay, well, we have to vote on it now. I mean, we voted and seconded it, so now it has to be.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment before we vote?
Yeah, for anyone in the public, I won't touch that. Okay, sorry about that. That wants to actually listen to the conversation about Screen and Dream, what the programs actually are, and how it will impact. I would ask our village manager to help me out, and I identifying the 2 meetings where we discussed the program in actual detail and its implementation. I know that Mayor Garrity and Stuart Khan kind of went into it a little bit today, but the public can have a full, they could go back and review the meeting just to learn more about it. But as far as the program, it's pretty much been covered in a public setting more than tonight. So the public has had time to watch and question and review. So I see no reason in keeping it open at this point. But thank you.
So Stuart, assuming that we're about to close the public hearing, what would then happen?
There would be a resolution presented to the board on the 19th, 2 weeks from tonight, for the adoption of proposed local law 11, which would be actually local law 9 in our calculation. And it would just go through its regular process. We would put it on for a vote 2 weeks from tonight, if that's how the board wants to put it on the agenda.
Yes.
Well, I would say we would also deliberate again in work session, right? I mean, if we choose to do so, correct?
If you choose to do so, if the legislation that we have before you is changed, then we would have to open a public hearing and go from there. But if it remains and we just are having a discussion, we can still go forward on the 19th with a vote. That would be correct.
So let me just go over this so that the I guess the public understands, what this program is. We've provided these types of programs here in the village for our firefighters, and we've also done it for veterans. This is not an unusual situation. It's allowing people to stay in place. It's allowing those who are on a fixed income to stay in the apartments that they live in. There's no loss for the landlords because they're going to be compensated for the difference between the rent and whatever the increases are based on the DHRC's determination of rent increases. So from that perspective, it's pretty straightforward. We've had a chance to look at the effect it's had in other communities, the many other communities within Westchester County that has ETPA buildings, and it's de minimis the amount of money that's spent in order to provide this benefit. So I feel pretty strongly that this is an important move for this board, and we do need to do it now. I obviously there are legal entanglements related to ETPA. Those have yet to be settled. Depending on the disposition of those settlements, that'll determine if the law either becomes valid or invalid.
Okay. All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Nay. I think it'd be good to leave it open for another week, and I don't think it would make a difference. We could still vote on the 19th.
Okay. Next we have mayor's and trustees announcements then.
Okay, we have to deliberate a little bit on a little sidebar on the announcements. You want to kick us off, Deputy Mayor Codman?
Yeah, I was just. I guess the congratulations to Stanley Scarduzio, who was elected as our second assistant chief for the Austin Volunteer Fire Department, and obviously Mandy DeCruz will become our chief, and Scott Callery will be first assistant. It's the Austin Volunteer Fire Department is the best in the state of New York, and we have a large number of volunteers. It's a fabulous organization, and Stanley's going to be a great chief. So I'm certainly excited for him and excited for the department moving forward.
Trustee Herrera.
Thank you. More congratulations are in order. So to the Boathouse Restaurant on their 10-year anniversary. Congratulations to them. They've been quite the institution in Ossining, and I wish them the best for hopefully another 10 years plus. Also, congratulations to Karma Lounge and Restaurant on 3 years under new ownership, and they're celebrating that this whole week. And in other news, this past Sunday was the first day of our emergency shelter. So anyone who is in need of shelter in Ossining, Monday through Sunday, now through, I believe, the end of March, can go in front of Open Door at 9 o'clock, and a staff member from the Emergency Shelter Partnership, which our Ossining shelter is now part of it, a nonprofit, will meet you there. That's every day. All you have to do is show up, and a staff member will either walk you to the site, depending where it's being hosted that week, or will bus you to the site. Anyone who has any questions or knows of anyone who does not know about the program or may need a push or a nudge or some assistance, please let us know. Please let me know. Just email me at Herrera, HERRERA, at villageofossining.org. And, I've kind of been, the past really 3 weeks, I've been kind of just taking pictures of a lot of people sleeping either at Market Square or at other parts. So, I'm not encouraging anyone to just walk up to people and wake them up. But, if you see a situation, you should report it, and, hopefully we could address it. But there is a need for it in Ossining. Last year, we had about an average of 16 individuals stay, men and women, in Ossining. And hopefully Ossining will learn on the model of Bedford and Mount Kisco. Now it's to a point where, it's fire, police, churches, schools are providing dinner and lunches and services, and they're really interacting with who this population is, and joining a collective effort to kind of get them back on their feet and making sure that they don't freeze on our streets, because they're our neighbors. So my last announcement is I want to thank the Westchester County Board of Legislators for voting and passing the Ban the Box bill, which blocks businesses from asking about criminal convictions on job applications. It's a small box. If you're an employer, you could still do a full background check and procurement, but this really will give everyone a fair shot at the initial stage of the process instead of having their applications being thrown out. I really want to thank the County Board of Legislators for all their help and work and leadership on this, and our county executive, who also did an executive order earlier this year when it comes to county departments. That's all. Thank you.
Trustee Bazemore, do you have any announcements?
No announcements.
Okay, well, speaking of local businesses, we want to say congratulations to Tasty Table, who just opened this week at what we have for many years known as the Wawa Cafe location. And coincidentally, we have incredibly exciting paving happening that we have been waiting for years. And I see someone in our audience nodding her head because she drives down Camp Woods Road every day to get home. So Camp Woods Road and the adjacent streets there are now finally being paved. The Con Ed work there is completed. We could not be happier. Everybody who lives in that neighborhood or has to drive that road, anybody who takes their kids to Veterans Park to play baseball or anything else is just thrilled beyond belief. It's going to be a beautiful roadway in the not too distant future. It was a little unfortunate that it coincided with the grand opening of a new restaurant. So if you're going to Tasty Table, just park on a side road and walk around the corner. I know they'd be delighted to see you, and we welcome them to Ossining as our newest business. I also want to say thank you very much to the over 60 folks who have applied to serve on village boards and committees. We don't have nearly enough positions to invite everybody to be appointed. And we have now gone through all of the applications by email with each other. We've met and talked about it. We started making phone calls and emails to let folks know that we are starting to make some preliminary decisions on how we might be able to appoint folks. And so if you are one of those dozens of folks who applied to serve on a committee or a board, thank you very much. We are hoping to do the first round of appointments in the new year so that those committees can get themselves up and running in January. But there will be some additional appointments made after the new year, as we have some other committees that are getting back up to speed. That's the boards and committees is an area where this board has been very focused on improving. We've done some real updates to the code and to the structure of the committees, particularly the Board of Ethics and the Landlord-Tenant Relations Council in the last year. And we're seeing some great work coming out of those particular committees. So thank you to everyone who has applied. And if you haven't heard from us yet, just know we're working our way through it. And I also want to talk about a meeting that happened Monday night in White Plains with community leaders and elected leaders from across Westchester County talking about proposed legislation in Albany that would allow driver's licenses for all drivers regardless of documentation status, which is actually something that was in place not even decades ago, until the early 2000s. And there are 12 states that already you can get a driver's license if you demonstrate that you are a competent driver, regardless of your documentation status. And we're hoping that New York State, all of us who were there that night in support of this initiative, we're hoping that New York State is going to make this happen. And we're really, really pleased that so much of our Westchester delegation in Albany is already announced their support of the initiative. And you may have heard that from a law enforcement perspective, Chief Sylvester sent a letter to Governor Cuomo and expressed his reasons from a law enforcement perspective why it would actually be beneficial for local law enforcement if everyone who drove were eligible to have a New York State driver's license. And so it was a really positive meeting, and I'm grateful for everyone from Ossining. Our town supervisor was there, our police chief, I was there, and lots of community members and activists from Ossining and other communities as well. It was a really a positive night. So thanks all for participating. And I'm very pleased that our representatives in Albany are also supportive of this. So there are no more announcements, Madam Clerk. Oh, you know what, Madam Clerk, before we get into our formal agenda, I do see we have a visitor here. I was just sort of alluding to her in my last comments. Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff, it's delightful to have you here. Do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
First of all, thank you for Camp Woods Road. Not totally done yet, but it's really great. And I know that was a lot of Con Ed underground that was taking place. Also on the license, driver's license. Originally, I was questioning it, but the bill changed, fortunately, to say it's going to be used for driving only. It's not used for any kind of identification to go on a plane or any place else. And you have to take a driver's course. And I know the chief had discussed that. It's so important, especially if you come from a different place and you have different rules and regulations in your driving. You need to learn what the rules of the road are in New York. It's not just new drivers, though, I have to say. I think everybody kind of needs to do a refresher course. And I'd love to see us someday get into that. So we do know that you pull over, you move over when somebody is on the side of the road, having some police activity going on or getting their tire fixed or whatever else. And a lot of people don't realize you are supposed to go over into the left lane, not if another car is there, but you're supposed to go over. And there's so many different rules about cell phones, not supposed to use them, all those kinds of things that we have to remind people about. And so hopefully that legislation will get passed this year. But I'm really here for another reason. We have maybe 15,000 bills in Albany during our legislative session on all different kinds of topics. And one of the issues that came up this year that was very much involved with Osnane schools was that one of the people that was working in the Osnane schools was arrested a little bit further north, um, and the school district was not notified that the individual working at the school was arrested. And so what happened is the individual continued to work there without any knowledge until the individual had gone through the court system and was going to be incarcerated. And that was almost 9 months, 10 months later, and there was just no notification. So we kind of reached out. We reached out to the schools. We reached out, and I'm here because of Police Chief Kevin Sylvester. We reached out to him to find out if we could get some help, some really broad help with some legislation that would make a difference. And the difference is that, you know, if somebody is arrested, that the school district, because this was about a sexual abuse, that they would be notified immediately, and the school district could determine what course of action they're going to take. And I'm not telling them what they need to do or not do, but at least they would have the knowledge at hand. And so there were a lot of great supporters for this piece of legislation, which was signed by the governor. And it is Assembly Bill number 8382B, and it was signed this summer, August 24th, as the Chapter 233 of the laws of 2018. And I just think I'm here because I think it's really nice to say thank you for the people that helped. And Chief Sylvester was a big help. And I just thought you might like to have a little bit of a memory in paper, the pen the governor used to sign the bill. And I think it's just very, very exciting. And we know that in the long run, it's not just a bill on a piece of paper that's been signed. It's about protecting our children and protecting the people that are in our school districts, just to be sure that they have knowledge of any wrongdoings that have taken place with any of their employees. So I just really want to thank you so much. And that's why I'm here. And can I come in? Yes.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. It was nice to have a special visit. And Police Chief Sylvester will have a moment to comment generally, but did you want to comment on this particular bill that the Assemblywoman was just telling us about?
I don't have my table mate with me today to move the microphone over for me. Yeah, you know, this is a real honor. That's really cool. Wow. You know, the thing with bills like this is that so much of what I do, you know, I feel guilty sometimes because I get so much recognition for the things that the police department does. But this was such an important topic to our detectives, and they do so much of the good work that goes on here. Obviously, our patrol is the bread of our bread and butter, but our detectives really put their heart and soul into things. And this particular case was really important to them, and it really touched them because you know, a lot of us here are parents. So the opportunity to be involved in some positive change is really important to us. Every opportunity we have, particularly with legislation that involves our students, helps us every day to build better relationships with our school districts. So I will accept this, but I'm going to go upstairs with it immediately after and share this with the detectives because really this was their push. They were really asking for this, and they were the ones that really so proud that this could get done because it really makes for a safer community and a safer school district. So thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yes. Next we have an administrative report from Village Manager Deborah McDonald.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Omar for giving me a heads up of the process when new fire chiefs are elected, because I had no idea, and all of a sudden it was like the whole village is going off, and I thought, what had just happened? And then I get the text from Omar saying, don't panic, it's the fire chief's celebration. So thank you so much for that, because I really did think something really bad had happened. And I'm really glad to hear that the new leadership will be in place soon. We are very excited about Camp Woods, and I can also tell you that most of the other roads that were listed for paving are just about complete as well. So we have one Con Ed project that's still left open, and the Public Works Department has updated the website. So anyone that's interested in exactly what's happening with our roads, that has been updated. But I want to thank our engineer, Paul Fraioli, because he worked very hard with Con Edison to get a great project and a partnership going with them as far as being able to really do that road correctly. And I think you'll be very happy. By the end of the week, you will have striping on there and it'll be all done and travel safe. So we're excited about the paving coming to an end. I'm assuming that you would want me to do budget comments during the budget part.
Sure, and I will, you've given me an entree to be able to tell folks, we're gonna go a little bit out of order tonight. Trustee Levin is going to be here as quickly as she can. She has a conflict in her calendar. She just texted to tell me she expects to be here within not too distant future. So there are two items that, one of them is the budget. She asked if we could push that until later so she could vote on it, although we clearly do have a quorum if we needed to vote in her absence. But it's something that we all take such pride in, the great work that's been done there. And then also the local law regarding leaf blowers, which she's been instrumental in putting forward. So Madam Clerk, if you could hold those until later in the meeting. But so yes, Madam Manager, it would probably make sense for you to save your comments for when we're discussing the budget. That'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll keep it short then.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Next, an administrative report from Corporation Counsel, Stuart Cameron.
Thank you, Victoria. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. As the mayor mentioned, next week there is a public hearing. It is with regard to application by Hidden Cove for a special waterfront permit. That will be heard. Public hearing will be next Wednesday night at 16 Croton Avenue. The night before, December the 11th, there will be a DBA meeting at the Operations Center at 7 p.m. One of the items on there will be the request for variances by Hidden Cove. So if anyone is interested, of a public hearing with regard to that. So folks are certainly welcome to that. Land use boards are finishing up their meetings for the year. The last planning board meeting is the 18th. Just so folks know, generally it's the fourth Tuesday, but since that is Christmas this year, that meeting is moved up a week. And we'll be publishing very soon, if we've not done it already, 2019 calendars for all our land use boards. That's particularly important. Remind folks who do have applications or plan to make applications before those boards, please follow the filing deadlines. Very important that you get your papers in on time, and those dates are there. If not, please contact the planning department, and they'll be happy to give you those dates and the dates for the meetings that will be held in 2019. Thank you.
Okay. And next up, an administrative report from Police Chief Kevin Sylvester.
Microphones all do that. We got to look into that. Now that Thanksgiving's over, I'm thankful that the beards are gone. November's over, so everybody should be clean shaven. If you catch my cops outside with beards on, let me know. We'll yell at them. So beards are gone, and our next month's initiative now is going to be toys. So December, with all the holidays coming, we are participating in the Marine Corps Reserve Toys for Tots program. I know there are multiple drives across Ossining to collect toys. We support all of them because the more toys, the better for the more kids. Wherever it is you so choose to donate, we're grateful for that. But we have a box here, and I know there's a bunch of other locations. We'll put those up on our social media stuff. Other programs we have going on right now, the last couple of weeks we started a Books and Badges program where our officers are reading to students in Claremont School. It's an initiative both to promote literacy and for the kids to get a little bit more face time with our officers, ultimately resulting in the normalization of our uniformed officers being in the schools to provide an increased level of protection without the ordinary disruptions that may come with police officers hanging out in schools. We also started a program at Annam Dorner Middle School with Neighbors Link for the Pipeline Group, which which is called the Family and Police Initiative, where we have officers pushing into their programs there to familiarize themselves with families. Families get to make connections with the police department, sort of similar to our theory of everything else we do, but just another opportunity for us to work with the community. Since I'm not the only one getting awards here, today we received the PETA Compassionate Police Department Award. And as all things that go to the police department, it's usually not for me, it's for someone else. The Austin Fire Department does a fantastic job, but occasionally we get there a split second faster. And about a week ago, Officer McGovern happened to arrive first at a shed fire where we review all the body camera footage, and it sometimes gives us gold. In this case, what we were really proud of is that a quick thinking cop actually took the time to remove some propane tanks, thinking that it may cause a dangerous situation, and Officer McGovern, being who he is, managed to rescue a chicken. So he's been all over the world with that. He was featured in the United Kingdom. He's been all over the United States. And today we received the PETA Compassionate Police Department Award. So we're really proud of him for that and for getting us all that piece of recognition. On a negative note, we've got porch pirates. We've had 3 complaints so far over the last couple of weeks of people having packages missing. We are engaged in directed efforts to try and stem the tide of that happening. It's more prevalent in other communities, but we've had a couple of calls here. They've been in different neighborhoods, so it doesn't appear to be a specific pattern, but we're encouraging people to either have their packages delivered to a place where they know a family member or friend may be home, to use programs like Amazon Locker, or to have them delivered perhaps to their place of business if that's possible, so that it can be taken to a secure place so that thieves don't have access. Going forward, just a reminder, I don't think it was mentioned before, that Friday at 12 o'clock, Friday is Pearl Harbor Day, so the veterans groups will be having a ceremony in front of 16 Croton Avenue at 12 o'clock, and all are invited to attend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have organization announcements. Is there anyone that would like to make an organization announcement? Nope. Okay. Moving on to village board resolutions. Is there anyone who would like to address any of the resolutions that are on the agenda for tonight? Nope.
Seeing no one.
Okay, so moving right along to approval of minutes, November 7th, 2018 regular meeting. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the November 7th, 2018 regular meeting as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of minutes, November 14th, 2018 special meeting. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the November 14th, 2018 special meeting as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those
Comments
in-
on the board? No. Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye. Madam Clerk, I'm sorry. I said aye. We voted. It's fine. But
Yeah.
did you see the notes that I gave you for November 7th?
Yes,
Okay,
it was
so
corrected.
okay, so
Yes.
I don't know if those are considered still the as presented, but okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes, you're good.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Then next, approval of minutes, November 28th, 2018 special meeting. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the November 28th, 2018 special meeting as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, approval of voucher detail, December 5th, 2018. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated December 5th, 2018 in the amount of $3,413,780.89. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board?
Sure. So basically we have a large disbursement related to contributions to New York State and local retirement systems, aggregating the total amount of $3,447,869. 1.64 million is for the police. 1.4 million is for the employees' retirement system. So when you take all that out, it's pretty much a normal disbursement period of about $375,000. So we do this payment every year. It's obviously looks like an extraordinary amount, but it is the really the retirement contributions for all our employees and police.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we're skipping resolution E for now. Moving to F, Fire Department appointment, Hollow Hose Company number 5. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the fire chief, Louis Soldner, Ossining, New York, was elected to active membership of the Hollow Hose Company Number 5 for interior firefighting at their monthly meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Fire Department appointment, Hollow Hose Company Number 5. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the Fire Chief, William Gillespie, Ossining, New York, was elected to active membership of the Hollow Hose Company Number 5 for interior firefighting at their monthly meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Fire Department appointment, Washington Hook and Ladder Number 2. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the Fire Chief, Blake Hype, Ossining, New York, was elected to active membership of the Washington Hook and Ladder Number 2 for interior firefighting at their monthly meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, skip resolution I for now and move to J. Resolution approving submission of drawings to permitting agencies for the proposed extension of the Village of Ossining Pier. Whereas the Village of Ossining desires to expand and enhance the Havistraw Ossining Ferry Pier, the pier. Whereas Hudson Valley Arts and Science, HVAS, a local not-for-profit, has received a grant from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for design, permitting, and construction documents in connection with the proposed expansion and enhancement of the pier. And whereas HVAS has helped lead a grassroots effort under the auspices of the DEC grant to engage the community and stakeholders in a dialogue about the design and configuration of the pier, and whereas stakeholders have included MTA Metro North, the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club, the adjacent restaurant, the owner of the adjacent residential development, and the town of Ossining, among others, and whereas a total of 38 schematic design options have been prepared and discussed with the community and stakeholders, including the town, and whereas there is a consensus among the stakeholders that recommended schematic design number 38 is the preferred alternative, optimally balancing stakeholder concerns. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ossining hereby affirms support for HVAS to formally submit option number 38 to all regulatory agencies requesting permits to build said option number 38. Those agencies include, but may not be limited to, the New York State DEC, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Office of General Services, and the New York State Department of State. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Okay. Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, I was just going to thank Gareth Huffam, who was the architect and the herder of cats and other things to get this along. 38 iterations of the design is remarkable. To think that he had to go back and forth with all the different groups, some of which have many, many different ideas and thoughts and agendas, is quite remarkable. And I'm thankful for his efforts. I think this is a great design. I'm hoping that the village will be able to find funding to get this done. It's going to be a great amenity for our waterfront.
Yes. I second everything that was just said. It was quite a remarkable task that Gareth undertook, not only spearheading this effort. It's so rewarding when we see a community member who has a vision for something and then also has a suggestion for how they can really help make it happen. And the coordination was really remarkable. One of the other groups that's not listed here that was helpful and instrumental in understanding the needs of the tall ships that we're hoping that this would allow for is the Clearwater, who participated in a number of the meetings with us, and one of their captains was really particularly helpful in helping us understand how we could accommodate as much as possible. And the 38 iterations, I can't even, it felt like even more than that somehow. It was I've never seen anyone with such incredible patience as I witnessed in Gareth Upham. So thank you very much to him, and I am optimistic that it's going to sail through the permitting process with the regulatory agent. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
DPW award of bid cut and clear 91 trees at the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby awards the bid for contract number DPW-18-02, cut and clear 91 trees at the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant, to WD Excavation and Contracting, Inc., 411 Yorktown Road, Croton-on-Hudson, New York, 10520, for the bid amount of $80,000 as the lowest bid received from a responsive and responsible bidder. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? I will comment because when this came up previously, when we first put it out to bid, there was a lot of concern about what this really meant in the community, and we expressed to people, but I think it's worth mentioning again that this is one step in the process of the construction of the Inderbrook Water Treatment Facility. It's being done particularly at this time because the DEC has parameters on when trees can be cut down at certain times of the year to be in keeping with the needs of the wildlife in the area. But also part of this process that went through the town planning board, because this is actually in the unincorporated town, is that there will be 91 trees that are going to be planted in village and town
Both
parks.
village and town.
Village and town parks. So we will have a net neutral impact as far as maintaining our status as a tree city, although we're not a city, but to have a plethora of trees for our community, because they are not just beautiful but actually very functional in many ways for our ecology and for our stormwater management. So it isn't as daunting and horrible as it sounds. Nobody wants to cut down trees. It is, but it is part of a much bigger project. Madam Clerk.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Agreement between the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals of Westchester, Inc. and the Village of Ossining to provide care and shelter for homeless and stray dogs and cats, including feral cats seized by dog control officers, animal control officers, police, other agents of the village, and residents for the term of January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby authorizes the village manager to enter into an agreement with the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals of Westchester, Inc., 590 North State Road, Briarcliff Manor, New York, 10510, to provide care and shelter for homeless and stray dogs and cats, including feral cats seized by dog control officers, animal control officers, police, other agents of the village, and residents for the period of January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, the terms of such agreement subject to review and approval by the Corporation Council. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board or staff? Do you want to identify any differences in this year's? Because we have had a lot of discussions, more than usual this year, when it comes to our agreement with the SPCA.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, following discussions with the SPCA, the agreement was revised from a prior year's agreement to include reference to what will now be utilized as a TNR request form. And there will be a formal form that will be prepared. It's a form that can be picked up at the police station. That will provide an approval by the animal control officer as to the number of cats that are to be TNR'd. That will then be turned into the SPCA in Westchester. And only those cats that are actually brought in and are subject to that form for which the village will be billed. And if in fact an individual has approval for 10 cats, but they bring in only 4, we only get billed for 4, and there is no credit for 6 going forward. Each form is treated unto itself. The agreement also provides that if the village wants to and is able to, it can arrange for other services to provide, other entities to provide TNR services in addition to the SPCA.
Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing the village manager to sign the memorandum of understanding between the County of Westchester and the Village of Ossining, providing remote access to Westchester records online maintained by the Westchester County Clerk. Whereas the Office of the Westchester County Clerk, has provided the Village of Ossining and other municipalities access to Westchester records online free of charge, and whereas the County Clerk has provided a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, allowing selected village staff remote access to Westchester records online through December 31st, 2019, now therefore be it resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign the MOU with the County of Westchester for remote access to Westchester records online through December 31st, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing the mayor and the village manager to sign the certification and grant disbursement agreement with the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, DASNY, for Project 6785, purchase of a fire truck for the Ossining Fire Department. Whereas the State of New York awarded the Village of Ossining a State and Municipal Facilities Program SAM grant for $100,000 for the purchase of a fire truck, and whereas the village has been advised by the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, DASNY, that the village has fulfilled all of the necessary criteria to receive the SAM grant, and that the village must now provide to DASNY a completed grant disbursement agreement with exhibits. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and village manager are authorized to sign the certification, grant disbursement agreement, and any other associated documents related to project 6785. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how many fire trucks ago this money was given for. I remember when we got the money through Senator Carlucci, and I believe initially it was earmarked for something else, but at the end of the day, the board decided that we would use it to help buy one of our pumper trucks. So it definitely takes a while to get the money from the state of New York. Certainly an adventure. So, but anyway, I'm certainly thankful to Senator Carlucci, and I'm thankful that it cost us $100,000 less to buy the fire truck.
As are all of the taxpayers. So thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Are we moving on to continuing business of the board? Or?
I believe it is probably time to move on to the budget.
Okay.
So, Madam Manager.
Thank you very much. I want to start the presentation of the budget by recognizing our village treasurer, Tom Warren, and Deputy Treasurer Dale, always say her name
Ferreira.
wrong, Ferreira, for all the work that they did in filing this, working on it, analyzing it, and putting it together. The presentation that was done November 14th still stands pretty much the same as far as the budget goes. There are some minor changes to the budget that were done through the interaction with the Board of Trustees and the different department heads, and we did hold the public hearing on the 14th. So I just want to go over the highlights of where we are, and these documents will be posted online tomorrow, and Tom and Dale are working feverishly to get the full budget up, assuming passage of this budget tonight. Our appropriations in the general fund are scheduled for $36,761,636. We are scheduling to use $979,580 of our fund balance to offset property taxes, which will be collected in the amount of $22,725,364. Our water fund budget is $10,882,858 with the same amount of revenues. Our sewer fund is $1,911,608. We are using $115,000 of fund balance to offset and balance our revenues of estimated revenues of $1,796,608. Our Section 8 program is budgeted at $3,410,926 with an equal offset of revenues. Our debt service fund is estimated at $3,942,391,000 with $112,083 in fund balance to offset revenues. We are looking at $1.2 million in fund balance reuse. I think that is very significant in this budget. The tax rate will be exactly the same. There's no increase in tax rate. This will be the 5th year of the exact same tax rate. And I said yes, it's only the 4th year, but it's actually 2016. You had the old assessments, and the rate actually calculates to be the same amount if you do the conversion of the assessed value and the tax rate. So even though the tax rate in 2016 was $188,907, you convert it to the current 100% assessed value, it is exactly the same, $10,8492. So this will be your 5th rate of no increases in taxes.
It's the 4th year of no increase.
1, 2, 3.
It's the 3rd time we voted on a zero, but it's
Oh, okay.
so it.
4th time.
But yeah, but it's the same as it was. Yeah.
For 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. There are $329,580 of projects that we have recommended be funded from the 2018 fund balance that we believe will be in excess. Our capital fund, wanted to give you the highlights of our capital budget. For highway and sidewalk improvements, we are recommending to the board $680,000 in capital improvements. For vehicles and large heavy equipment, we are recommending $2,467,000 in funding. The largest part of that is the fire engine 96 for Ossining Hose, which is $700,000 is in this budget. And we have $250,000 for a sanitation truck, which is a large expenditure. And we have $400,000 for a backhaul truck. Those are the largest expenditures in that area. We are also looking at an electric fleet vehicles for the code enforcement department. Some funding has been set aside to purchase those. For public improvements, we are looking at $7,800,000. The largest expense there is $2,350,000 for Sing Sing Correctional Facility, which is actually a grant that we will be receiving from the state of New York, and it will be passed through our financial system. So we had to budget for that. There is $900,000 allocated for 200 Main Street stabilization. We have applied for a grant of $500,000 to offset that. We are hoping that comes through, but it is allocated there so that we can move forward with cleaning up that building either way. In recreation and parks, it's the year of basketball. So we are looking at $375,000. We are looking at $65,000 for Veterans Park improvements to replace the basketball surface. Replace the basketball surface at Snowden for $70,000. And in Nelson Park, replacing the basketball surface and basketball court lights. The surface is $85,000 and the lights are $55,000. And a little bit of improvement to the clay courts. We are also recommending $100,000 in this budget to begin the process of evaluating our center to see if we can do an expansion or an upgrade of some sort. So we wanted to begin the process and we've recommended that. For water improvements, there are $965,300. Nothing substantial, just small upgrades to the water purification and water source supply. Let me go back here. We're out of order, sorry. 4, 5. I'm sorry, I'm not sure why this got out of order. Public improvements, 965,000 total water improvements. Total sewer improvements is 2,500. That doesn't add up.
Um,
I'm sorry. Oh, okay, the TBD, I'm sorry. Right. The water tank compliance sprayers that we talked about
yeah.
we're estimating at 600,000. Sorry.
That's just,
I'm like, this
when you said
doesn't
there
add
wasn't
up.
much in water, I was thinking, really? That's not how I recall.
It was under TBD, sorry.
Okay.
So there's various sources of funding for that, private grants, PEG funding, parkland funds, some general fund, water fund, sewer fund operating budgets, surplus fund balances, and then the $2,580,000 in federal or state aid grants. I'll take any questions if you have any questions.
I mean, we spent what 20 hours having meetings about the. I wasn't. That wasn't a joke. I think it might actually be that. But it was well over a dozen hours meeting with department heads and Tom and Dale and the board and Debbie were there for all of them. And so we've explored a lot of the details that Manager McDonald just provided the highlights of. I'm thrilled that we have such a we stand on the shoulders of so many who have come before us that have done really responsible budgeting. And as progressive a board as this is, it is also fiscally a very conservative community, which is what allows us to see these 0% tax rate increases for 3 years in a row. It should be municipal taxes is not something that most people delve into, although we do, and we learn more each year. The tax rate per thousand is what is not changing. The revenue that the village takes in is changing because, as anyone who pays their base property taxes directly, you will have received an update, and very likely your property value has increased. The property values generally are increasing. That will not always be the case. But if your property is worth $25,000 more this year than it was last year, then your tax bill will actually go up. But your village tax bill cost per $1,000 of assessed value is the same rate that you paid for the last 3 years. We like having nice, stable economic times, but we recognize that they're going to go up and down, and so we are very fortunate to have a healthy fund balance. One of the topics that we discussed in one of our last discussions was what percentage of fund balance what percentage of our total budget should we be maintaining in fund balance? What's the recommended amount? And I believe right now we still are at about 30%. But that percentage has gone down. It was even higher. The recommended amount, Tom, I'm kind of looking at you, but Debbie, is about 15 or 20%. So we still have a very healthy fund balance, which is why we felt it was responsible to continue with the 0% tax rate increase. And I'm really, really pleased with the incredible work. Thank you very much to the village manager's office and to the finance office for bringing us to this point, and to all the department heads who worked for months on your own department budgets. I'm really, really proud of this budget, and looking forward to voting on it. And I know Trustee Levin is too, so she can't comment on it. She's driving here. She's on the road. We put this at the end of the agenda, hoping that she could be here to vote on it. But does anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I'll just say that we continue to be we continue to work hard to obviously keep the tax rate flat. I think we're also putting a lot of money into infrastructure. We've been blessed with extra money each year of unexpended funds, and our way of handling that is to try and capture as many capital expenditures as we can within this year's budget, and so that kind of prevents us from having to make any increases in the budget for the following year. I'm not sure that's sustainable in a long-term perspective, because frankly we're still the village is not fully employed. There are still a lot of positions that are open that have remained to be filled, and I know they will be over time. So we have to be mindful of that. I don't think we're always going to have the benefit of this kind of excess funding, on an ongoing basis. We have to budget for those positions, because if we don't, then we'll be punished by the state of New York because of the tax cap. So, the tax cap is something I've never been in favor of, because of other reasons. But this is a good budget. Again, we've got no increases here. It's a responsible budget. We're spending money on infrastructure and things that we need to take care of. That'll keep us from having to spend money needlessly later on in the future. So I'm very happy to vote for this budget today.
Would you like to comment?
Yeah, I won't belabor by echoing the comments of Deputy Mayor Codman and Mayor Garrity. However, I will, as when people ask us what is it to be a trustee, there are two things I say: budget and legislation. I've said this for a couple of years that tell a community's priority by their budget, and I believe that we have that there are things in this budget that definitely reach every person within our community. So, pleasure to be able to vote another budget, and I'm thankful to definitely Tom and Dale and Debbie and every department has hard work as they have presented not only a budget but also their strategies and their vision of what they see for the coming year. So thank you to all. Thank you to my colleagues because we put a lot of time in.
Um, I'm also very grateful for the work of our village manager and Tom, the entire, Dale, finance office, our department heads. This is no easy task, and every year this is really what allows us to operate as efficiently as we do. Back to what Trustee Bazemore said, I think that despite our many differences on the board as electeds, this budget does speak to, I believe, the majority of Ossining when it comes to how it touches them or affects them directly. I'm actually pretty proud of that. I also want to thank my colleagues and the department heads and offices of village manager for having a budget process that's recorded and be now viewed for the years to come. I think it went pretty successfully, and I think the department heads did a fantastic job on camera. It's really great that the public can now review, even after we about how the actual budget was compiled, what was discussed, and if the public has any questions or comments or ways that we can improve the process for you, please let us know because we can start planning that now. Thank you.
Trustee Levin, you made it.
I made it. Sorry. Sorry about that. So I had a board of trustees meeting where I work full time. I apologize for the lateness. It's in Scarsdale, and I had to present my budget to the board of trustees for them to vote on. Hopefully, the one I presented, which is what you spend your time doing. So I sit on both sides. Got passed. I won't know till tomorrow morning because I left before they were done with all the other presentations. So for me, it's sort of an interesting day to sit on both sides. I think everybody has said everything there is to be said. I think for me, in addition to what has been said and what Contel said, I like the idea that under this village management, and that's everybody that's involved, there are strategic initiatives that capture long-term, short-term, so much of what village management does is the water, the roads, and keeping things running. That's really what they're supposed to do, and we oversee that. The other small percentage is all the initiatives that I think get a lot of play, but in fact, from a budget point of view, is a little bit less. So I always applaud you guys for listening to 5 individuals that sit on the board and combining all of the initiatives and prioritizing and helping us to prioritize. I do think, as has been said, that it reflects a lot of people in the community. I hope that we did that. And I hope that people become increasingly more involved in local politics where they have a say. And I find it to be one of the most democratic parts of government. No offense to our friends in county and state and federal. I think I find local government to really be where a lot of the action is that really hits you every day. So I do hope people become increasingly more involved. And I think we've already seen that with the number of resumes we've received.
We commented
more
on
than
that earlier.
61 for the committees that we have. I think it's a great sign that people are really want to be engaged, and I think it's good. I am very supportive of the budget and where we came in, and I also like the flexibility that during the year we can make adjustments as needed because we sort of accounted for that. So I thank all of you sitting on this side and everybody that had input.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that every year there are, Trustee Codman mentioned that we have some unexpended funds related to positions that were budgeted for and the hiring did not happen, and that's happened for a few years, and that'll probably happen again next year because people go and it takes a while to refill them because it's quite a process. But that's just the budget process. But there have also been some really important initiatives that have saved us money. And one of them that saves us money every year was the LED streetlights. That's 6 figures of savings that we don't spend in electric bills. And that's sometimes the difference. That's why we don't have a tax increase. I mean, we need to keep looking for more ways that we can provide efficiencies in our community, and whether that's having more energy efficient programs or whether that's finding more ways that we can share partnerships with other municipalities. That's a critical way to keep our community affordable. Westchester is an expensive place to live, but Ossining is more affordable than other communities. And part of the way that we in village government can help continue that is to find more efficiencies. And so I know that all of us are looking for that in whatever ways we can, and whatever access we have to information. And we have been very supportive of initiatives like that, and I look forward to finding more efficiencies going forward. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Fiscal year 2019 budget adoption. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin has received from the Town Assessor for the year 2019 a combined total taxable assessment of real property and special franchise properties of $2,094,660,971. And whereas the Board of Trustees received the 2019 tentative budget on November 7th, 2018, in accordance with Section C4-3 of the Village Charter, and has since amended same after having held a public hearing and given further consideration to requests and recommendations of all department heads. And now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining does hereby adopt the budget of the Village of Ossining for the fiscal year 2019, showing that there be levied and assessed upon the sum of taxable and special franchise properties of the Village of Ossining as herein before listed, the sum of $22,725,364 to be raised by real property tax levy, which sum is more completely set forth in the budget for the Village of Ossining. And be it further resolved that the tax rate rounded to the nearest penny and the same hereby is fixed at $10.8492 per $1,000 of assessed taxable valuation. And be it further resolved the adopted budget for calendar year 2019 shall include the appropriations and estimated revenues for the General Fund, Water Fund, Sewer Fund, Section 8 Program Fund, and Debt Service Fund as modified by the Board of Trustees. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees does hereby authorize the capital plan for the calendar year 2018 as presented, subject to follow-up board resolutions to implement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we will move then back to Resolution I. Adoption of proposed local law 7 of 2019, a local law amending chapter 178 noise of the Village of Ossining Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining, good, okay, has been considering the adoption of proposed local law 7 of 2019 entitled 2018, I'm sorry, titled a local law amending chapter 178 noise of the Village of Ossining Code. And whereas in accordance with New York State law and the Village of Ossining Code, and having provided all requisite notice, the Board of Trustees conducted a public hearing on October 3rd, 2018, October 17th, 2018, and November 7th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, during which time the public had an opportunity to be heard regarding the proposed local law. And whereas at the conclusion of the public hearing was closed. And whereas the proposed local law has been considered by the Board of Trustees, and it has been determined that there are no impediments to proceeding with the adoption of the local law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby adopts proposed local law 7 of 2018 as local law 8 of 2018, and directs that said local law be filed and or distributed in accord with applicable law. And be it further resolved that local law 8 of 2018 shall become effective on May 31st, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Have we've been commented out for the night and on this particular subject? Okay. This is the local law that we've spoken an awful lot about, which is largely related to leaf blowers. Yes, gas powered leaf blowers. Yes, and we have discussed it exhaustively, although you wouldn't necessarily know that's what we're talking about from the formal description that we just received here. But if anybody is interested in reading the proposed local law, which will soon probably be adopted local law, they can find it on the village website under local legislation, and it's going to be listed now as local law 7.
It'll
That
Local law 8.
it will be local law 8 because it was proposed as 7, and by the time we got around to voting on it, it became local law 8. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Okay. Trustee Bazemore?
Aye.
Trustee Codman?
Aye.
Trustee Levin?
Aye.
Trustee Herrera?
Aye.
Mayor Garrity?
Aye.
So now continuing business of the board.
Any I don't know about?
Anything?
None.
Okay, new business of the board?
Seeing none? No.
Okay. Visitor recognition. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board on any topic?
Is there anyone who would like to speak for 3 minutes on any topic related to the general interest? Please, welcome, Mr. Semino. Welcome back.
I'm just a little clarification here. I don't fully understand that. The resolution that was passed earlier about senior citizen,
Mhm.
and you mentioned something about police and fire, that you have some kind of discount for senior citizens or fire or locals, I suppose.
For veterans and fire.
Let
Veterans
him
and fire.
finish his
My
comment though, and
question
then we'll.
is just in the budget, where's that reflected?
Do you want to first clarify what it is?
I would just say that, well, I mean, as to where it comes from, I mean, it would be revenue that would not be collected because of the benefit that we would provide. So the revenue would come from any of the different sources that we get revenue. It could be our property taxes. It could be tax receipts. It could be any other revenue streams that come into the village.
You don't have an accounting of this?
Well, I mean, I think I would probably have Tom or somebody from the treasurer maybe speak to this because that way he could describe it in a way that was appropriate. I mean, I certainly understand how I understand it, but I would want an expert to explain it. So.
You bring up an interesting question. Thank you, Mr. Semino. Did you have any other comment? You bring up an interesting question because it is our evening to vote on the budget. I think it would be interesting for us to better understand exactly how the rebates work. And I believe that Trustee Codman was referencing, at least in part, the veterans exemption, which allows for veterans of the Cold War, and I believe that was the entire. Do you have any further questions or comments, Mr. Semino?
No. What?
Okay, then I'll let our treasurer Tom Warren can expand on it. But I believe at the time that we were considering that, we recognized that it accounted for about $2 million in tax revenue that we did not collect. Is that correct? Or is it 200,000? For the veterans. The veterans exemption represents.
You know what? I'm sorry if I had my budget. I could look it up.
It is in the budget, you're saying.
In the budget, there's a schedule of in the miscellaneous section at the back of the budget. There's a schedule that we're required to put in the value of all the exemptions that are granted, be it seniors, senior exemptions, veterans exemptions. I think houses of worship are listed, things, every exemption, so that the public has the opportunity to see all these exemptions that reduce the total possible assessed valuation down to the taxable assessed valuation. As for the question that was asked, we're still learning about this Screen-Dree program, but the way it's looking like it's going to apply or work, instead of the individual applying upstairs in the assessor's office, they're going to be submitting an application to the New York State
DHCR, Department of Community Housing and Community Renewal.
And that they'll be then advising me as the treasurer of the amount that's been authorized. And I believe if we receive that notification before the tax bills are issued, could correct the tax bill and issue, the lower tax bill to the property owner. If the amount comes in after the tax bills have already been sent out, then we have to adjust the person's property tax bill for the amount that's authorized by New York State. So if in the budget, as Deputy Mayor had mentioned, if we are going to levy $22,725,000 in property taxes, and if the total amount of all of these exemptions totals or $2,000, then we'll only collect $22,723,000 in real property tax revenues, and there'll be a shortfall in that line, hopefully made up from some of the other revenue lines that might have excesses or appropriations that are underexpended. That's how, that's my understanding. And we spoke with Corporation Council today. We're going to actually, since there are 14 other local governments that already have this, we're going to be talking to our counterparts to find out what their experience is and how it works specifically in their municipality.
Thank you. Thank you for your impromptu update as well, and how it is detailed in the budget for us as one of the many exemptions. Is there anyone else who would like to comment during visitor recognition? No? Do we have any executive session tonight?
Matters of personnel, yes, ma'am.
Matters of personnel related to specific persons. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So in a moment, we are going to adjourn to executive session for matters of personnel related to specific persons. Thank you so much to everyone who made all of the exciting things happen for tonight. I'm thrilled that we have our budget for next year with a 0% tax rate increase again. And we have a brand new law that's now been implemented. Local law number 8. Thank you very much to everyone. Look forward to seeing you next week and at all of the festivities in between. Meeting is adjourned.